Good morning. Welcome to Caffeinate Your Career. Today's topic, common job search mistakes and how to overcome them. I'm your host, the career coach with the most, Jason Hopper. With me today is slamming Scott Butnick and jamming Jim Warner. Guys, welcome to Caffeinate Your Career.
Good to be here.
I'm ready for a hockey game when I listen to it.
Did you like that? I changed it up with your names there. That was not planned. I just did that. All right, I'm checking to see if we're live, and we are indeed live. So, if you guys are popping into the live stream now, I can hear us, so everything is working correctly, and you want to put something in the chat, we will definitely. I will definitely monitor that and answer any questions. So, I say all the time, man, job search is hard. It is hard, and there are a lot of challenges within the job search itself. And I think, I don't know if we're going to get to all of these, but we're going to get to as many as we can. But let's start with, and this happens a lot, lack of response from employers. They talk about ghosting, right? Maybe you've applied to several different jobs and you don't hear anything back. That can be kind of frustrating. So that would be the challenge. Jim, thoughts on a solution for that?
Relationships are critical in your job search. Relationships will open that door and will provide you an opportunity to communicate with that company if you do it right, I would say.
Yeah. Scott?
Well, number one is get ready, because it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life, and that doesn't put much balm on your feelings. If you're watching it, it's because it's happened to all of us. You got to be a little proactive in terms of how you approach things, and expect. It's difficult. It's hard to even talk about, but you have to expect some disappointment. Okay, and you have to keep your eyes on the prize. Having said that, I agree with Jim. If you try to put a positive spin on being ghosted, that's why you network, because people that if you've networked appropriately, then you have the relationships, and then you get the results that you. Because people with whom you have a relationship will typically respond to you. That's the nature of a relationship.
Right.
Now you have to also manage your expectations about what they can do for you. I think this is something the three of us talked about a few weeks ago. Is the referral call, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, I know so and so who's looking for a job. Can you give them a few minutes? Yeah, I'll give them a few minutes, but I can't guarantee. And I'll tell the referral source, I cannot guarantee results.
Yeah.
Okay. Manage the expectations. So, but I think relationships working your relationships, give you the greatest chance of being successful in that aspect of your job search and engendering, a meaningful conversation.
Without a doubt, and I would say that coming from a third party or an executive recruiting firm, which I had for years, we get ghosted by employers as well.
Yeah.
They don't communicate with us. It's difficult to get them on the phone or have them respond via email. They have busy lives. So you're not the only ones that are being ghosted, I'll tell you.
You got ghosted by clients. I got ghosted by hiring managers. I did corporate work, and I got ghosted by hiring managers. Hey, I talked to a really great candidate today. I know they're being courted by a couple different players. They told me, and I believe them because of the talent level. Can we get something set up? Give me a call or email me or let me know some availability.
Yeah.
And the moon and the stars. No return call.
It's that hurry up and wait.
Exactly.
Right? And it's, we need this right now. We need this right now. And then you start getting candidates in line, and then you don't hear anything back. And now your candidates are like, what's up? Are we going to move forward? And I don't know. I have no information. And then what happens typically is they're not waiting for you. They're moving on, right? And so now we've got other people in the mix, and people get frustrated.
And from a standpoint, I think the question that arises, it often did, but I tended to overthink these kinds of things. Should I call the person again? Should I email them again? Boy, I really love this job. Gosh, I think this job is just meant for me. And I'm not hearing from anybody. Frankly, 2 tries, move on. This may sound a little selfish to those of you who are watching, but when you're on the other end of it, more than 2 calls, and I have nothing new to tell you, now it's becoming a burden.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
It just is. I hope that doesn't dissuade you, because follow-up is important where it's appropriate. But if you've had a conversation or you applied for something and you have a contact name and you've emailed them again, called them again, 2 tries, move on. Just wait and see if they call you.
I would add one more thing there, and I would add, they're swamped with emails. They're swamped with phone calls. Snail mail sometimes is a nice addition to your process, because again, most people, when they look at their mail, they get junk, but they have a handwritten card there in the mail from a very qualified candidate that can sometimes do the trick. So let's add one more time to Scott's 2 times and make that 3.
I'm surprised you said 2 times, Scott, being a big baseball guy. 3 strikes, you're out. That's it. That's it. I think, part of that goes with the fact that oftentimes, and this is the first thing one of the first questions I have for all my new clients is, up until this meeting, what has been your process for job search? And almost 8 out of 10 times, well, I'm on Indeed. That's not a process. Yeah. Just sitting and applying to things and hoping for something to happen isn't going to work. If you take the extra step, like you said, Scott, and follow up with somebody, whether it's email, call, voicemail, because that is oftentimes what happens is most of the people that are looking for work, they apply to the job and then they just cross their fingers and spit in their hat and hope somebody calls them back. The people that are getting noticed, the people that are taking that extra step, have a greater chance of getting that call back.
Yeah. It also, on some level, it tells you something about the place that you're trying to get a job, what their approach to their people is, and maybe take the message and then take the best from it, the best that you can, which is, I learned something today. XYZ Corporation really doesn't give a hoot about being in touch with their people. There's nothing else I think anybody could say. That's why I said on the front end of all this, prepare for some level of disappointment.
Well,
it's tough.
You did corporate, and I think when companies are trying to attract candidates and get that top talent, they want to put their best foot forward. Yeah. They want a good candidate experience, and if they don't have it, you're going to get a bad word on the street real fast.
And believe it or not, and to those of you that have been ghosted, this may be really hard to believe, but we spent a lot of time talking about candidate experience.
Of course, yeah.
And the more you talk about it, I think the more meaningful it becomes and the better you get at it. But it's not across the board, and it just isn't. So.
The other thing, too, that is a common challenge is the competition. Mm-hmm. It is definitely an employer's market right now, not a job seeker market. There are way too many people looking for work and not enough jobs. And employers are being really, really selective on who they're calling, who they're setting up, and who's moving forward in the process.
And it's probably going to get a little worse before it gets better. We talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Jim bailed on us that week, but you're now facing some very talented former federal employees who have a lot of skills.
Yeah.
And I happen to think competition is probably at the top of the list. And you may have a different take, but in terms of why you're not getting the call back, it isn't you, ladies and gentlemen. It's the competition. they see somebody that's closer to what they're looking for in terms of skills, experience, background, than what you're offering in your profile.
But I'm going to add something here, and that is that I disagree with the fact that there are more and more candidates, because what's happening is the baby boomers are retiring, and so there's a number of people that are leaving the workplace. So there is going to be a need. It's going to shift where there are more jobs than there are candidates, and if you're qualified for those jobs, that network, that relationship, getting you in the door will put you in good stance.
I think it's a good idea to work on standing out. I think it's a good idea to produce content on LinkedIn to make sure that you're engaging in other people, at the minimum, engaging in other people's content, especially if it's at with somebody's at a target company, someplace where you want to work. I think I just talked about doing that extra step, right? But like, if you are working on showing how you're the best at what you do by posting content on LinkedIn, or could be other social media, right? But make sure that it ties in overall with the brand. You've got a better shot, I think, because employers, hiring managers, recruiters, they're going to be looking at your LinkedIn. They absolutely will be. In fact, I know a recruiter, she told me last year that she stopped looking at resumes. She's only setting up interviews based on LinkedIn profiles, right? So that, of course, was also a trend for this year, which is the electronic resume, whether it is LinkedIn or a portfolio, is on the rise, and you need to know how to, use it, and not only use it effectively but creatively, so that you do stand out.
And again, that's the key: is distinguishing yourself from the rest of the pack. The medium is important: LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever. But the message, to me, is still more important. And if you trying to leverage the medium, but you're not broadcasting or going forward with a good message that separates you from the rest of the pack, you're kind of wasting your time. Okay, and those are the people. And when we talk about why am I not getting responses, why am I not? I'm having interviews and I'm not getting hired, because you're not doing enough to separate yourself from the rest of the pack.
Yeah,
and it's something I run into, and candidates. Generic answers, very generic answers to questions without much detail. Get that interview, that is your time to toot your horn. So toot your horn. Talk about the great work you've done.
But more importantly, have others talk about how great you are and how important and what you've been able to, your results. Because you can talk until you're blue in the face, and you can create a great story about yourself. But other people telling that story really makes a difference.
LinkedIn recommendations.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea to ask for those recommendations.
Yeah.
The worst thing I can say is nope.
No.
You can always. Yeah, I'm almost certain. I have a recommendation from a client that's on my LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure he wrote it using AI. And the only reason I say that is we were on the phone and we're talking. He goes, "Oh my gosh, you've been so helpful." And I'm like, cool. Hey, can you leave me a recommendation? He goes, "I will do that right now." I'm like, awesome. 5 minutes later, it popped up, right? And I'm like, that's fine. It was still nice, but he used AI to do it. I'm almost certain.
I also think, with respect, wondering how you feel about this, Jim and Jason. Well, I don't care what you think.
Yeah. Nobody does.
But I think what carries some degree of punch, is recommendations from people that you've interacted with in a volunteer, personal way, and obviously the professional space. That's got to be there. But the bottom line is, I think, with recommendations, is something is better than nothing. If you have no recommendations, then what it tells me is Well, it's going to tell me, gee, I wonder what kind of team player this person is. Can they interact with people? Even if you get some that are AI generated, something is better than nothing, but also broaden out your recommendations to include a couple areas from, when I say personal, I mean the volunteer space, the not-for-profit space. Somebody you did something for, maybe you helped somebody get a job. Ask them, hey, can you put a recommendation online?
I did a few years back. I did a virtual presentation for another career coaches networking group, and then she reciprocated and did a presentation for our group virtually. She wrote me a recommendation. Jason brought me into his group. I was able to, right? And I did the same for her, basically about the same. But I mean, it could be just that reciprocal, hey, you are a big help and I appreciate it kind of thing.
Did you ask for it?
She asked me.
That's very impressive.
Asked me. Here's another common job search challenge is the lack of relevant experience. Sometimes you just don't have the experience that the employer is looking for. What would be a solution for that, Jim?
Well, highlighting transferable skills is one big solution to that, where you were successful in a similar opportunity or at least a similar role or responsibility, and how that translates to the new role, I would say.
Scott?
Look for places to get it. The not-for-profit space, the volunteer space. That's what networking, that's one of the good things that can come out of networking.
Yeah.
And we've seen that. I think there's a common individual that we've seen that worked for. And so when I say somebody that we both know is what I mean, my definition of a common individual. If you're a career changer, you're going to run into this, ladies and gentlemen. It can be overcome. It takes persistence and patience and all those things that are hard.
And if you're a junior in your career, consider internships, part-time jobs, volunteer work, or personal projects. Those are ways to get you in now with some experience versus coming directly out of college or vocational school.
There are more than a few people. I can't think of names, but I know stories of people that went out and said, I'm so passionate about the work that you're doing, Mr. or Ms. So-and-so, and being in that industry, I'd like to try it for nothing for 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's not just, Mr. College Junior or Ms. College Sophomore. That's Mr. 33 or Ms. 34-year-old career changer.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, it's an investment, and yeah, it's going to cost you some money, but the dividends can be rich. So that's another way. And it fits in with what Jim talked about interning. But we typically think of I'm not in college anymore. I can't intern. You can still intern. Robert De Niro did a whole movie.
I was say, that was a great movie, right? But I think, and this comes up a lot in the creative space, where employers will want you to do a project for them. And I had one client, that's what he did, he's graphic design. They want me to do this project for free, and I'm going to take my work. I'm like, dude, it's part of the process. This is part, and I don't have a problem doing or taking a position for free and doing it on spec so that you can get the experience to move you into the next thing where you want to go.
And if you ask yourself, if you think about doing that, and you ask yourself, and it's fair, quite frankly, what's in it for me is the experience. The best thing, if you're in that role, if you're a college senior or even a college junior, the number one benefit to interning is networking. Okay, the experience is great. You'll learn a lot, but it's the people that you're going to meet where you have an opportunity to build a relationship. That pardon me for the credit card line, but it's priceless, and it can pay dividends for a long time.
I think too, when we talk about networking, some questions I get like this: where am I going to go to network or find people? And my answer is always the same: is like, go to meetup.com and register for some meetups, get into some fun meetups, things you like to do. They're going to like you because you already like the topic of whatever the meetup is. And then they're also going to like you because now you're new, right? Like, and then that's the other bit. You have to go back. You can't just go one time. You have to continue to go. But like, I go to meetups. I've got a meetup that I go to regularly. I know what everybody does for a living. They know what I do. In fact, one of them became a client. She was like, "Hopper, give me the pitch. I'm thinking of moving to a different company." Okay, cool, right?
Yeah.
And you get to know personal things about them. So if you're looking for work, and they know that, and now leads come up, and they're people. Unless you're psychotic, we're just hardwired to want to help one another.
Mhm.
But you have to let people know that you have a need.
Right. The critical thing you just said there, Jason, is that she has a job and she's looking for another one. And I would tell you that your chances of finding an opportunity with a job are far greater than if you left then to find a job.
And whether they want to admit it or not, employers want to hire people that are currently employed.
Yep.
And sometimes they don't want to admit that, but that is the truth.
Yep.
And again, I think it comes back to this bucket that we talked about a couple minutes ago, which is, it's not that the fact that you're working it's largely psychological. The fact in the mind of the hiring manager, the fact that you're not working isn't necessarily a minus, but the fact that the other candidate is working is a plus, and that it all there's this massive universal T chart that takes place.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
And it's pluses and minuses,
Mhm.
and if that person has more pluses, they're going to get the job.
Well, especially with experience and how the market is right now, it's not a really good time to try and pivot into something different.
I don't think so.
Like think about it. Like, if you want to do cybersecurity, but you have no experience in it, but maybe you have a degree in it or a certification in it, but no actual experience, who's the company going to hire? Somebody that has anywhere from 5 to 10 years experience, or you who's got no experience in it? It just makes sense right now.
Well, it again. So and because the question becomes, what's the answer to that is, and the answer is find a way. And this is what Jason, I think, is referring to when he talks about being creative, because there's no argument. Find a way to distinguish yourself or to present something in your profile that overcomes that challenge. Okay, because career changers do change careers. Some of the some percentage, I don't know what the number is. There's probably statistics somewhere in the virtual universe, but some people do it. It's not easy, but some people do it. But those people have been able to demonstrate behaviors or successes that speak in an overpowering way to success in the job, absent of the experience.
Yes. Well, and that leads into the next common problem with job search, which is low confidence and or burnout, right? Because it happens a lot. And I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea to take a break every now and then from your job search, a day or two. Or I had a client a couple of years ago, and she was like just super frustrated. I was like, you need to take a break.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, I think you're right. I want to take a break, but can I get on your calendar? And I'm like, sure. And she goes, okay, I want to get on there for December. And I'm like, okay, we can do December. That's fine. It was August. That's how long a break she took. And I was like, I scheduled her appointment. I'm like, I'm never going to see you again. She took some time off. She came back and met her appointment and hit the ground running, ready to go. And, she's been employed for over a year now.
Okay. So smart thing to do.
Sometimes it does help. I think, and you said a minute ago, Scott, be prepared for that disappointment, because once we start getting into job search, once we start to get into that self-doubt and you start to down spiral, it's really hard to come back up from that. Yeah. We talked about before about keeping your your win file, right?
Feel good
file, yeah. Right? Check in to see, make sure that you do have those skills.
That somewhere you added value.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that's the key, is to remember to stay positive and create a positive environment. And that's going to look different for everybody. But whether it is hype music or watching a motivational speaker or
TED Talk. Yeah.
TED Talk, yeah. Or, I mean, there's several different ways to remember to remain positive, because going into interviews in a negative headspace is not going to get you the job.
It's going to get you declined. Not only is it not, I mean, I think we're saying the same thing, but it's going to get you, because people, body language, ladies and gentlemen, nonverbal communication is really important.
You know what's going on in my mind? I'm thinking about the interview and candidates sitting in chairs, waiting to speak to the hiring manager, and the senior person or person that maybe has more experience may have let themselves go. They're heavy. They are not healthy. When you're interviewing with these three people here that are extremely good looking and they're strong and they're muscular, they're young, and you're heavy and you're sitting in the chair and you're sort of leaning a little bit. Think about exercising. Think about making yourself look presentable, because this is your competition, and that's what I think is really important. Is part of the activities, drink, plenty of water, exercise, reduce the extra weight you gain during this time where you've been unemployed and depressed, and you're eating the Twinkies and you're eating the chocolate and all those things. Don't do that. You've got to compete against these people.
And it's a whole other episode for the podcast, but what Jim speaks to is it's spot on. And if I extend it just by one Roman numeral, it's what you look like when you walk, you look like when you walk into the interview. You don't have to be for guys GQ or for women. You don't have to look. You just walked out of Ingenue magazine,
Right.
but there something is to be said for a neat business professional. I won't use the word formal. I think that's too strong, and it says something different. But business professional look to you. Okay.
I think it's important to recognize that there are many and varying types of body type.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes just the exercise and eating well is not going to be as effective. And I don't think that I don't want to get into an area where we're like, I think a lot of this happens to come from not only like, let's say, because I'm okay, I'm comfortable with my dad bod.
Yep.
Right? But I also walk a lot. And I was like, well, shit, why isn't all this going away?
Right.
Well, it's because I also like to drink craft beer every now and then. And that's what's keeping, all right? I was like, start doing crunches or whatever, you know what I mean? But I think a lot of it happens if you look sharp.
Yeah, you feel better.
And if you are confident in your skill and ability, despite how you look, because you're right, all of us are really good looking on this live stream today. And we're also confident in our ability, right? We're dressed pretty much like we normally do during the day. Y'all can't see it, but Scott's got shorts on. Be comfortable, man. But
in today's weather, it's going to be 90 degrees, folks.
I know. I didn't even wear a coat today.
Baseball season starting in 2 days.
I love it. I love it. I know. I just got back. We just got back from vacation, and had there been baseball, I would have gone to Camden Yards.
Sure.
We're by there.
It's a misdemeanor crime not to. So yeah.
But I got to tell you, people judge the book by its cover. All right, and you don't look the part, you don't act the part, and this is your competition. Get serious.
I'd asked the question before, as recruiters, how long did it take you within meeting a new candidate for you to decide if they're moving on to the next round? And the consensus was 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We all were like about 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, we're going to know. So that first impression, that how you carry yourself, is going to make the difference on, I mean, yeah, we'll continue to talk and round out the 30 minutes because that's what we scheduled for this interview. But like, we already know whether you're moving on.
But the bottom line is I have to say, we all agree that you need to look the part and you need to present yourself in a way that sets you above the competition.
Another common challenge that pops up in job search is negotiating salary.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know what your worth is and also to kind of come up with a strategy for answering that question. It's going to come up, the hiring manager is going to ask, what is your salary range or what are your salary expectations? People get uncomfortable talking about money, but like, you know, you want to get paid to do the job.
Yeah.
Like I don't work here for free. You guys do. Y'all are volunteering to be on this podcast today, and I do appreciate that. But like, I get paid, and you need to know how to answer that question.
Pretty handsomely, if you notice that Jaguar out in the parking lot says Jason Warner. Yeah.
That is not quite true. I do have a fancy Mini Cooper, but we got a good deal on it. So, yeah. So negotiating salary can be tricky. Jim, what would be a good solution for that?
Well, I don't know about a solution, but you got to be careful. You know, throwing a number out. If you're throwing a number out as to what you would need to take this position, is really generally a kiss of death because that the hiring manager knows they have, say, $100,000 as salary, and you suggest that you could come in at 80 and be happy. You've lost $20,000. So there's got to be a way to talk about salary without holding yourself to a specific number.
Scott?
Hardest part of the job search process to me is the answer to this question, because Jim's right, and yet I've always advocated that if you're asked, okay, so you disagree, and I'll disagree with them. I think you have to produce something. You have to come up with something.
Well, you do have to come up with something, but you're not going to hurt yourself by giving a lowball number.
No, and you're never going to hurt yourself by doing that. But you also have to feel good about yourself. You talked about confidence,
mm-hmm.
and I guess the only, in my mind, the only true answer to this is you give them a number, and they're not comfortable with that number. Remember that not only do they have to match you to the job, you have to match yourself to the opportunity. And maybe if you are wide apart on numbers, then if you say, well, I want to go in, I would really think that something in the range of X would make the most sense, given what you've articulated for expectations and jobs and duties and so on and responsibilities. And he or she says, well, we were really thinking it was going to be somewhere near Y, where there's, how wide is the difference? Wide enough that you're dissuaded from the job? Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. I hope you'll consider me if something else comes along. I don't know what else. I mean, because you can't go in feeling like you're behind the eight ball, and you can't if you think you're worth $125,000 and they were a year and they were only planning to pay 80, then it wasn't the job for you.
No.
I don't know. It's a tough thing because a lot of us have gotten to the point in an interview process where we really want this job, okay? And we're afraid we're going to talk ourselves out of it or give them a number that's going to disqualify us. And you have to have enough confidence in yourself to say, this is what I believe the job is worth, based on what we've talked about to this point.
I think a couple things. One, we have 2, soon to be 3 financial coaches that can help you guys come up with what the salary range is going to be, right? I can help with that as well. I'm not as good as they are because I don't do math very well. But I'm also going to be the coach that is not going to suggest that you negotiate salary, provided they come back with what is in your range. You come up with that range, and if it is, like they're going to pay 100 to 125 and they offer you 110, I'm going to be the guy that goes, go ahead and sign on the line. It's within your range.
Yeah.
Now, I did have a client a couple of years ago who was interviewing at Deloitte, and they told him this is going to be a long process. He said, fine. They come back with the offer, and it was like $100K, and he wanted 125. And I'm like, dude, it's within your range. Go ahead and sign. You don't need to negotiate. You don't need to negotiate.
No.
He goes, well, what you said, Jim, there's money on the table.
Yep.
I want to negotiate. And I'm like, you don't need to. And he goes, I want to negotiate. Fine, let's talk about it. Because when we get into salary, you have to remember it's for negotiating, it's not just the base pay.
Mm-hmm.
You can negotiate a signing bonus. You can negotiate
Perks.
getting reviewed for a merit raise
Yep.
in 6 months rather than the year. I read an article last year. It was an HR manager, and she negotiated the severance. She said, look, if I screw up and you terminate me, null and void. But if the company restructures, if there is a layoff, I want, instead of 3 months severance, 6 months. And they're like, cool. And that's what happened. And she had 6 months of severance,
Really?
right?
Okay.
You can negotiate almost anything. You just have to make sure that when you do it, you have all your ducks in a row, because you can't keep coming back to them.
No.
Right? But for this particular client, what we worked out was just that same thing. What I just said, he negotiated a signing bonus of like $5,000, and also two extra percentage of they got stock or whatever they were getting, options, and he negotiated that, and he felt like they made me whole, and he's been there for well over a year.
Yeah, I'm going to put a plug in for the executive recruiter. The executive recruiter can really help in this area. They're going to negotiate high with the employer and a little lower on you, and we're gonna come into a happy medium, and it keeps the emotion out of it.
Yeah,
for the candidate.
That was exactly what happened. It was he ran everything through the recruiter, and she ran it up the chain.
That's right.
Came back, hey, we can do this. Is that okay? Can we do? And it took, it took about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, for everybody to agree on all the things. And at the end of the day, he was happy, and like I said, he's been there over a year. So
that's wonderful.
I think it's important to note a difference, though, Jason, in two aspects of what you discussed, which is, one, the question, so what type of a salary are you looking for? That's not a job offer. Okay?
No.
Okay.
No.
The time, I think to the three of us, this is kind of stating the obvious, but if they come to you with an offer, there's never a better time to negotiate than when you're offered the job, because that's when their interest in you is at a peak.
Yeah.
And some of the game is psychological, ladies and gentlemen. For you, no doubt, like Jason said, the person that wanted 125 was offered 110. Yeah, I'd probably take that job too, quite frankly. But I might take it and I say, well, gee, I was hoping to be a little closer to 125. Can we get there? Gee, you know what? I'm really maxed out in this area. Okay, when can I start? But there's nothing wrong with asking. That's always been my point. There's nothing wrong with asking, and quite frankly, the experience, and you may have different experiences. The two of you may have had different experiences. But where I've asked, where I've negotiated, I felt like the hiring manager thought just a little bit more of it.
Well, when we get into that, or even like, let's say you're employed, and you want to raise, right? Yeah. It can't just be, well, because I've been here for 5 years and I have 20 years. No, that's not. You have to go in with showing them the value add.
That's right.
Or same thing. Like, if we're going to go negotiate, it's like, hey, you know what? I want 125.
Right.
Here's why you're going to pay me that. is because I've done this, 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 and this for so long for other companies. I can come in here and blow it out of the water for you, and that's why I'm worth that.
Right. The other thing is that when they ask you what is your current pay, your current pay may include other areas outside of your salary, commissions, bonuses, so forth, into one larger number. So if you are forced to say what is your current income, you're including all of that in the answer.
What about side hustle? Would you include that money in there too? Do you think?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so either. Even if I thought I had to give up the side hustle to do this job, but I don't think I'd include it. I don't think it's any of their business.
I think it's always easier to negotiate down than it is up. But I when it comes up, I coach clients and tell them, this is what you're going to say. I am currently interviewing for positions that pay within a range of, and then give them their range. That way they know where you are. And also, if you've told them you're currently interviewing, means that you're actively looking. We're hot. So if you want me to sign up, you need to move.
You know, one of the things also, and I think we're close on time, is the tactic of asking for money is really important. And the tactics involved in negotiating. And I actually like to keep it simple. And this was one of my first applications of internet knowledge. I went years ago and Googled there was no AI, but there was Google. What's the best way, methods for negotiating salary? And I was given a very simple solution, which if I were looking for a job and negotiating pay, I'd still use it today, which is, that's a very generous offer. I was hoping to be at whatever your number is. Generally, because the game is psychological, because people like to help people fulfill their hopes.
And unless it's a huge gap, right? Like if you're asking for $20K more, you're not going to get it. But if it's 2 to 5, that's not a big deal for the company, and they're not going to want to have to start the entire process over, right?
Right. That's part of the game. Yeah, that's very true. It's a good point.
It's like, are you going to really lose me as a candidate over $5,000 where you're going to have to restart this process and or hope that your second choice is still available?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, that's why it doesn't hurt to ask.
That's exactly right.
It's the same way as when you buy an automobile and you're negotiating with the salesperson.
That's right.
And they've taken you on a test drive, and they've learned all about your family, and they have really done their job. And now we're at the end point, and you say thank you very much, and you're walking towards the door. Things change.
That's right. I mean, I just bought a car. I just bought a new Mini. We're sitting there. She's wherever she's at, the salesperson, and Steph goes, you need to be prepared to get up and walk out of here.
That's right.
And I said,
that's right.
This is taking a lot longer than I thought it would. I'm ready to get up and walk out now.
Yeah.
And my wife is always prepared. And she comes back and she goes, okay, so for the trade-in, we're really happy about it. It's like $2,000 that we're going to do for your old Mini. She took the phone and she goes, she pulled it up, CarMax. She already had it pulled up. CarMax is offering us $8,000 for it.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, let me see what we can do. And we ended up not selling it back to them, the trade-in, and sold it to CarMax just the other day. So
the car thing's a great analogy.
That's a great, but you have to.
Because if you get the hiring man, it's just like that car salesman. He wants to make that sale as much as you want the car. And that hiring manager does not want to go back to square one. And you're not going to know that, but generally, I'd say 95% of the cases, in other words, a very large majority, they're not going to want to go back to square one. And they're not going to, if they're that impressed with what you can offer, that $5,000, that $3,500 is not going to stand in the way. And if it does, then you have a judgment call to make. And look, at the end of the day, how badly do you want the job?
Yeah.
Okay.
I asked the car salesman at one time, so how many people just pay the list price, the window sticker? And he said 20%. That was a big number.
Yeah.
That I thought, and sometimes it feels so bad that you're paying a window sticker. They throw stuff in. I mean, they feel really good about it.
It's like, I don't want that tent, but, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, car buying, my father taught me how to buy cars. My father of blessed memory. And you know, he used to say to me, well, he threw in an expletive, but he used to say, you got to have a spring in your ass. Get up and get out of the chair and walk out of the dealership.
That's right.
Okay.
I did that, like I did that. Last year was my anniversary, is our 15-year anniversary, and I hadn't bought my wife any jewelry in a while. I went to buy her sapphire necklace.
Mm-hmm.
Guy's like, hey, when you're ready, come back. I got the matching earrings. I'm like, cool. So now it's Christmas, and I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So I go back, and I'm like, oh, matching earrings. I go back in. The guy goes, I'm going, so I'm here for those matching earrings, right? I already told him what I want. He goes, he lists me the price at like just over $1,000. I'm like, that's a bit more than I wanted to pay. And he goes, how much were you looking to pay? And I'm like 500.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, it's all crap anyway. He's got his calculator. How about 640? And I said, that's over $100 of what I just told you. I'm like, either do better, or I'm just going to walk out of here and buy her some slippers that are going to be like $40. And so he did the numbers. He goes, 545. Yeah, we can do that. I'll do that. Fine. Right? Because I knew he wanted to make the sale. He knows what it's worth, and he also knew I was going to just walk on out the door.
Right. But going back to the negotiation, you're far better off doing this negotiation once they've put in all the time.
Yes.
You know, you've spoken to 4 of his associates. You talked to him. You're finally at that place. Now's the time to do it.
Yeah. When you're offered, right?
Yeah.
When you're offered.
You can't do it after you accept the offer.
No.
That's crummy. And has that happened to you?
Oh, of course.
That happened to me. I had somebody, maybe 2 or 3 times people accepted offers, call me a day or two like, yeah, well, listen, I was giving this some thought. And right away I'm thinking, this is not going in the direction I want this to go.
Yeah.
Okay, and believe it or not, recruiters feel the same way as hiring managers. I don't want to go back and repost this job and start this whole process over.
Exactly.
Or start looking for people at the beginning of the process. But it's happened. And I can tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't accept an offer and then come back the next day and say, hey, I was thinking about it and I really need X, Y, and Z.
But it's a beautiful place to be at salary negotiations because you have gone through your meetups, you've gone through your exercise, you've done your recommendations on LinkedIn. I mean, you are there, baby. So don't blow it at that point.
Yeah. Check your arrogance at the door. Be confident. We talked about this.
Yeah.
And Jason mentioned it a few minutes ago. Be confident, and you should be confident. But don't cross that line into arrogance and go into it. Negotiations. The best result to it. This is corny. This is business 101. The best result to a negotiation is when it's a win-win. Okay. They get you. You get what you want. Maybe we met somewhere in the middle. Be confident, but don't be arrogant about it.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So, all right, those are common job search struggles and how to overcome them. Guys, we're at time, so let's talk about the fun question for today. It's very important. I want to know, do you prefer oatmeal or grits?
That's an easy one. Oatmeal's for me.
Oatmeal.
Grits.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Grits.
No.
I don't like oatmeal at all.
I'm like
oatmeal cookies, but that's about it.
I'm like neither. Because for me, sometimes food is a texture thing, and I just cannot get over the texture of either of those things.
So does he get to ask us questions and then bail on the answer?
That's what it is.
That's a really...
If I had to, I would say oatmeal.
I say that's one step down the ladder from taking an offer and then asking for more.
I like how you brought that back. That's good, Scott. All right. So next week, guys, I've got Janae Jones on. She is a operations manager at AT&T, and we will be discussing how to explain gaps in your resume and your career history. So come back next week for that. We'll see Janae then, and everybody have a great week. This has been Caffeinate Your Career for today. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.